fancy word, right? A big word, but all it is basically the creation of new plants from existing ones, just to sum it up. So that's all you're doing with propagation. You're just making more plants. So a really important thing for you all to be aware of with propagating plants. So just to put that out there, it is illegal to propagate plants that are patented by companies, right? So an easy way to double check this before propagating plants is you can go to the United States Patent and Trademark Office, to their website, or when you purchase plants from the garden store, they'll often have a patent number on there. It will be that USPP number there that you see at the top, or it'll have a TM symbol. So just be aware that, obviously the plant police aren't going to come to your house, and find and, charge you with illegally propagating plants, but, it's mainly for the protection of these creators, and definitely for the protection for them as far as people, propagating like, a knockout rose, for example, and then trying to sell it as something else. So do be aware that even in your own landscape, it is illegal to propagate patented plants. So there are two main ways to propagate plants. So the first one is through seed propagation or sexual propagation of plants. So, when you go in the garden store, of course, they have the big seed towers and all that. So these are the results of sexual propagation between plants. So the best place to store your seeds is actually in a dry and cool place. So this is just a picture of a seed library somewhere that's probably temperature controlled and all that. But the best place for you to store your seeds for the best success with them, you can put them maybe in a garage, maybe in a room in your house. But temperature and moisture is going to be the two key things that affect the life of your seeds. So the two main types of seeds that we're going to work with propagation are going to be wild seeds. So if you've heard of cosmos flowers or seen cosmos flowers before, these produce seeds really easily because you can just go by and take them off the plant with your hand. So you have that option. Then you, of course, have the option to buy commercial seeds from the store. So the thing with wild seeds are that, you're not going to get consistent quality, and they're not going to be, as I guess kind of clean as commercial types. So with commercial seeds, if you're buying seeds from the store, they're going to be pure because they're going to go through a quality control process at some plant or factory. They're going to be true to their name, true to their type. So, whatever it says on the seed label, 9 times out of 10, that's definitely what you're going to get. So we can break up the two main types of seeds into 3 categories. So you're basically going to have seeds from fleshy fruits, so things like tomatoes, berries, fruits, things like that. Dry fruits like your grains and your grasses, and then dry pods or flowering seeds like beans, or basil, as all those things are pictured here. So in all these 3 different type of categories, seeds are going to be presented differently, and you're going to have to do different things, obviously, to harvest those seeds. So this is the key thing with seeds. And then at the end of this presentation, actually, I'm going to try to give away some seeds, but you can find out more at the end. But so with the seed packets, the key thing with the seeds is the seed label is your friend. So propagation can be really scientific. There's many different ways for you to prepare seeds for planting and plant them, but everything's going to be on the seed label. So I have an example here of some seed packets that I have. So this first seed packet is a lavender seed. So we can just, start on the right side here, so you can see, or on the top side, actually. So it says, packed for 2021, sell by December 31st, 2021. So that doesn't necessarily mean that the seed's not going to be good, by then, but that's just the manufacturer giving you a general date for, the optimum time to, plant these seeds. So making sure your seeds are, not expired. It'd be a different story if the packet said sell by, 12/31/1998 or something like that, right? So looking at the date is always good. We can see on the side here, it tells you the rough amount of time it takes for these seeds to sprout, the ideal temperature for them to grow in, how deep to plant them, the spacing, are they frost hardy, how much sun do they need? So if you at a glance look at those key things and you follow all those recommendations, then you significantly increase your chances that you're going to grow something successfully from that seed, right? But if you don't follow what the manufacturer has recommended, then that definitely hurts your chances, right? So then we'll look at planting instructions. So we'll notice here that like when y'all think about seeds, you probably think, if I have seeds, I can just, throw them outside, they'll grow. But with seeds, there are different ways you can do what we call preconditioning them. So with lavender, it's called cold stratification. So it says start seeds indoors in late winter, sprinkle on a moist paper towel, hold in the fridge for 30 to 40 days. Seeds will sprout, then they can be placed in pots and grown indoors until planting outdoors after last frost date. So with these lavender seeds, one method of preconditioning is called cold stratification, and this is to ensure the best germination rate for this seed. So of course we have, numerous amounts of seeds and plants and varieties out there. So there's no way for you to just know how to plant every single one, but except if you read the label, right? So this is a quick video showing you the easy process of cold stratification. And all this is doing, this basically just mimics the natural processes that these seeds go through as if they were in nature already. So let's check this out. Yeah, so in less than a minute, she stratified or cold stratified her milkweed seeds, which is a popular flower. And, just like that, it's pretty easy. And then she can move on with that planting process. So then I have another seed packet here. So these are zinnia flowers. And of course, it has the same information on the right side, but the planting instructions read direct sow soon after last spring frost, requires full sun, rich soil, and moderate moisture. So that's, completely opposite of what the lavender instructions were. So with the zinnia seeds, they're saying direct sow. That means you can just take those seeds, check your frost dates in your area and put those seeds in the ground. So, and then they should grow. So we can see here just these two different flowers, how different the preconditioning process is for propagating these plants. So then if you like to save seeds, and that's like a whole nother topic with seed saving, but if you're planting tomatoes this year and you want to save the tomatoes for next year, you're going to want to take those tomatoes through a fermentation process. So, tomatoes are, a really juicy fruit. So those seeds are going to have a lot of pulp and water around them. So you would use the fermentation process when you harvest those seeds. And basically all you're doing is You scoop out those seeds from the tomato. You can put them in a mason jar, for example, in a warm location, and wait about 3 or 4 days until the gel around those seeds starts to break down. And just like this, the good viable seeds will fall to the bottom and all that other stuff, will rise to the top in the jar. And what you would do is you basically just pour it out into a strainer. You rinse off those seeds, and then you need to dry them. So when you're drying your seeds, you want to basically spread them out on plastic glass or ceramic plate, some material that isn't sticky, and let them dry out for about 2 weeks. And then after that, you put them in a airtight bag, preferably, or jar or bag. Put them in a dry, cool place, and then you have your own tomato seeds. So going back to what we were talking about with the zinnias and the lavender seeds, for example. So some seeds, like zinnias, they germinate very easy. All you got to do is throw them out there, in early spring or early summer when there's no frost, and they'll, pop up for you. But other seeds take different processes because due to the different type of dormancy that different seeds undergo. So these are some other ways that you can precondition seeds. Most likely, you might you're going to direct sow most of your seeds. I think the average home gardener probably does that, or you might use the cold stratification method as well. But for harder seed coats, you also have the more general scarification, where you have to physically break the coat of that seed. So here we have pictured smaller seeds, and you can use sandpaper, for example, on the smaller seeds to kind of break down that coat so it'll speed up germination. Then with your bigger seeds on the right, you can see someone using a nail clipper. So who would have thought of that? You can use a nail clipper to nick it to get through that seed coat so it can germinate. So different, like I said, different varieties of plants require these different strategies. So it's just going to vary based on what you choose. Then you have hot water scarification. So that's when you're bringing the water to a boil and basically boiling your seeds in hot water to help break down that seed coat. But overall, the key to success with seeds in general are going to be a combination of light, temperature, and moisture. So here we have a picture of a heating pad at the bottom of the picture there, because the root zone needs to be kept warm. And then we have that plastic piece at the top of the picture, because that's going to help hold in moisture for when the seeds germinate. So you can see here how this setup is. So typically your seeds are going to have cool tops and warm roots, and they're sitting on those heating pads. And then you would keep the plastic on top of those seeds to help conserve moisture and keep them from drying out. But we have a really good step-by-step publication on how to start plants from seed for the home gardener. So if you would like a copy of that, you can just email that to me, and I'm going to put my email in this chat here. So it's just bcrumsey@uga.edu. So then I can send that to you, and then you can follow each of those steps to start different plants from seed at home. So the second way to propagate plants, this is probably a more, well, not necessarily more complicated, but more intensive, I would say, work intensive. So this is called vegetative propagation or asexual propagation. So here you're just using plant parts instead of seeds to create more plants. So we can see here just a picture of vegetative propagation. So it's really just done by using, shoots, leaves, things like that to create more plants instead of using those seeds. So the benefits of vegetative propagation, though, is that you're basically cloning the plant that you're using. So you're getting pretty much an exact copy of that plant. You will grow the plant a lot faster because, of course, seeds take more time because they have to, develop roots, develop leaves. They have to get bigger. So this is faster, but this also requires high humidity environments because um, when you're doing a plant cutting, that cutting doesn't have a root system, right? So there's no way for it to, absorb water through the roots to help keep it alive and healthy. So you can see here in these two pictures that these cuttings are all covered with plastic to help lock in that moisture to keep that plant piece from drying out until it can develop a root system. So that's really important. So the key with the cuttings is you want the cuttings to develop what we call adventitious roots. So these basically are roots that come from the plant cutting that aren't normally developed from a seed. So stem cuttings require that a new adventitious root system is formed because, it already has the bud or the shoot system present. So there's three main ways you're going to do the vegetative propagation. So you're going to use shoot cuttings. You can divide different types of plants, or you can do something that we call layering. So this first plant here, this is sage. So this is a common herb, that you've probably seen. So you can see here that you basically just cut off the flower at the top. You cut off the two bottom leaves, and you have that stem you have the stem cutting there at the bottom right hand corner. And then what you would do is you would just dip the bottom of that stem in rooting hormone, and then put it in some type of potting material to start your new plant off. And I guess a more common use for shoot cuttings would be azaleas, right? So right now, the azaleas are blooming everywhere. They're making new growth. So here you can see how to do a shoot cutting of an azalea. So you want to choose, shoot cutting here. You can see that they have all the leaves at the top. There are no leaves at the bottom. And you're going to want to cut the branch at a slant. So make that angle cut on the side of the closest bud. And what that does is when you cut it at a slant like that, that gives that shoot cutting more area at that point to create roots. So that's the advantage of that. Then you can scratch or scrape the stem on the other side as well to help with that surface area. So then once you do that, you saw that they removed those bottom leaves. And also another thing to do is to, you can cut these leaves in half to reduce transpiration. So that helps the plant also conserve moisture as well. So then once you're done with that, to help enhance that rooting chance, you just dip it in rooting hormone. And, you can find this at a lot of different garden stores. You can find it online. And then once you do that, you put it in a pot, and remember to help keep that humidity in by covering it. You can put the pot in a plastic bag if you want. You can buy one of these containers if you want. And then in about a month or so, it should form roots, and then you can put it in a bigger pot if you would like. So then you have herbaceous leaf cutting. So species, different species, this works better for. Like this is a jade plant, for example, where you basically are able to take the leaf cuttings and use those to create new plants. Begonia is another plant. And again, using the same method with the plastic to help conserve that moisture. And then this is also important as well. So the best thing to put these cuttings in are pretty much anything with a combination of soil sand, pumice, or bark. as you see pictured at the top here. And then at the bottom, this is another mixture. It's something called perlite, which is like a volcanic glass, but it's really good with absorbing moisture and draining well. And you can combine that with peat moss if you want. So putting it in, the adequate propagation media will help those plants be more successful. So then you have division. So y'all have probably done this before. So the two plants we have here, well, we have some hostas, we have some canna lilies, we have some daylilies. So these plants all grow really easily, and they grow in like clumps with their root system. So it's really easy to divide them and just make new plants, throughout your landscape. So for the hosta, for example, you can see first you would, obviously dig up the colony of hostas, and you can see that clumped root system in the top left-hand corner. Wash the roots off so you can get a better view, and then you can just divide the plants from there, separate them, and then you can just plant them, plant them in a bed, plant them in your backyard, keep them watered to help them with that movement process. And then some other examples, phlox, sage, some other different plants that grow in clumps. Back to the canna lilies, daylilies, they all grow in these clumps of roots that you can easily separate into smaller ones and move around through your large. So this is a really easy example of plant propagation as well. So I have this cool video here showing dividing perennials in action, just so you can get kind of a virtual hands-on approach to it. So we can watch that here.
Hey guys, Laura with Garden Answer. Today I want to show you how to divide perennials. I'm going to be talking about 3 of the most common groups of perennials. They are clumping, spreading, and perennials with woody stems. All of these groups are based on how their root systems are and how they grow. It's really important to know that before tackling the project so you know what you're going to come up against. So this is one of my hostas, which is an example of a clumping perennial. A couple other examples are daylilies, gara, and astilbes. This type of plant grows from a central clump called a crown, which grows bigger each year and produces offsets. To divide this kind, you want to dig up the entire thing, starting a good distance away from the center of the plant to minimize root damage. Once up, loosen the roots and knock off extra soil so you can see where to make your divisions. Some have obvious divisions, and others you have to use your best judgment. Use an old knife, saw, or your clippers to help separate your pieces, making sure that each one is left with a good amount of both roots and healthy foliage. I'm going to amend the soil with compost to add in some good nutrients back into that area and plant what's left of the original plant back in that spot. Then I'm going to dig a hole in a new location, amend it with compost, and plant the piece I divided. Then I'm watering both plants in with a starter fertilizer to help the plants root in and establish quicker. The next group is spreading perennials, plants like bee balm, phlox, perennial vinca, and this lamium. These plants grow by surface or underground roots or stems, or by dropping their seeds. They can look more like individual plants, each with its own crown and root system. To divide these, just dig up the ones you want to move and leave the rest alone. Super easy. The third group are woody perennials like lavender, rosemary, and thyme. This is a lavender plant that has a little baby ready to transplant. They typically have one main stem or trunk, and they often spread when one of their stem touches the ground and takes root. Just cut the stem that runs between the old plant and the new one, and then dig it up and move it to its new spot. There are a couple other perennial groups that we did not cover today, like perennials with taproots, but I actually do not divide perennials with taproots. I wait for seedlings to happen, so that's why we didn't go over that one. These are the 3 most common that you will come up against in your own garden. Also, the best time of year to divide perennials is for spring blooming plants, do it in the fall, and for fall blooming plants, do it in the spring. And if you go to divide your perennials and they start to shock and wilt and not look very good, that is completely normal. So don't be worried about that. You can cut back your plant and keep watering it and fertilizing it. It'll flush back and look gorgeous. So that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.
Yeah, so that's, an easy demonstration of how to divide your perennials. So then there's another strategy that you can use, or method. It's called layering. So this is just a quick chart of the different types of layering you can do, but this is also pretty easy. So it's basically the method that you use by which stems are rooted while still attached to the parent plant. So really easy example you can try this on is a hydrangea plant. So, hydrangea plants usually grow low to the ground and are really bushy. So that's why it's easy to use the layering method for these. So all you're doing here, so we see the hydrangea plant, you find a low growing branch from the hydrangea, dig a hole about 2 or 3 inches deep under that branch in preparation for it. So then what you're going to do is you're going to make a cut into that branch, as you can see here, and you're going to put a toothpick in the middle, and you're going to rub some rooting hormone on that cut piece. And what the toothpick is going to do is going to keep that piece from going back together when you bury it, because if that happens, then the plant might just heal it over and not produce any roots at all. So once you make that cut, you put that toothpick there. Basically, all you do is set it on the ground in that trench that you dug, cover it up with soil, and you're going to want to get, a fairly heavy rock, a brick, something to hold that branch down in that trench so those roots can be created from that cut point. And then, of course, you're going to want to water that area, keep it moist to help that establish. And here's a video of layering in action where they are doing, I believe, a hydrangea plant here as well.
Do you want to know how to make more of your favorite shrubs? This rhododendron is one of my favorite shrubs, and it's also one of the easiest to propagate by the method we call ground layering. Ground layering is a method that you can use on trees and shrubs that have branches that grow low to the ground. As a matter of fact, some plants, including this rhododendron, have figured out a way to do this naturally without our help. There's branches that have already attached themselves to the ground and grown roots. Today we're going to show how to help Mother Nature along by doing this ground layering ourselves. The first thing we want to do is select a low growing branch, one that's touching the ground or very close to touching the ground. Once you've selected your branch, clear the leaf litter and mulch that's growing right beneath it. And at that point, you can rough up the soil a little bit where the branch is going to sit, and then take a tool like a sharp knife and rough up the bottom of the branch so that that stimulates root growth and also helps it to make good contact with the soil. Take a landscape pin and pin the branch to the ground so that contact point is touching the soil. Put a little bit of soil over the branch and then put a weight on it, such as a brick, something to keep it in place because it's going to have to stay there for at least 6 months. So after about 6 months, you want to check to make sure that if there's an adequate root growth, you can cut the branch between where the roots are and the mother plant. If the roots have not fully formed or you want them to grow some more, you can leave it in the ground, leave it where it is for a little while longer until the roots are more firmly established. Dig a soil ball around the roots that includes as much soil around the roots as you can, and then transplant it to its final destination.
Yeah, so that is how you would ground layer. And as you can see, it's pretty easy to try that out, especially on your more bushy plants. So in summary, again, all propagation is just multiplying the plants that you already have, creating new plants with plants you already have. And there are a lot of different ways you can do it, whether that's through using seeds or through using the cuttings. And there are, of course, so many different varieties of plants and seeds out there that, all these methods won't necessarily work for every single one of those. So that's why for seeds, for example, it's always best to read the pack to see what their recommendation is. And then for plants, we can make general recommendations, but of course, those strategies are going to vary depending on the plant. And then, of course, again, always make sure you read the label and check patents before you propagate these things in your yard as well. and have a short poll here that I want you all to fill out if you can. And if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat. And I'll put my email address in the chat as well if you would like that seed starting publication or any other information about propagating plants that I could send you.
Hi, Brandon. This is Kimberly from Jonesboro Library. Just thanking you for opening up for me earlier and also for presenting today's program. And thank the participants as well for attending.